Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. And we've got lots to get into this morning. We're not going to be moaning. I hope we're not. Well, we might be moaning. We might be bloody moaning, let's be honest. But good morning. Get ready for the moaning. We're going to be talking about Marcus Rashford. Very close to a move to AC Milan. The offer is there, the bid is there, and they want it to be more than a loan deal. We'll talk about that and what you think is best for Rashford, Man United, and us, the fans. But he is very close to AC Milan. Dortmund and Juventus still interested. How quickly can this get done? Muani also very close to a move to Manchester United, independent of whatever happens with Marcus Rashford or with Joshua Zirkzee. Juventus still sniffing around there. Casemiro, Saudi Arabia. Also, what's going on with Kobbie Mainoo? What's happening there? Obviously, last night, really, for me, felt surreal. It was very real. Effectively, Sir Jim Radcliffe, the lifelong fan of Manchester United, is putting the entirety of Man United's squad up for sale as he does a bit of a cash grab. I think, let's just say straight at the start of the show here, there can be nobody out there anymore that can sit there and say that Ineos were better than Qatar. It just can't, it's not a thing. You might morally have preferred Ineos, but it's just so obvious. I'm being choked by Ineos. It's just so, they're trying to silence me. No, look, I still hope that Ineos will do well, but I think that the fear of 12 months ago was that getting into bed with the Glazers was a bad idea and that we wouldn't see a lot of change and that the debt would be quite strangling. Well, you know what? Why should anybody be guilty? I mean, we probably should vocalise it a little bit more. We'd have been better off if the Glazers had sold the club and gone. I mean, that's the line. It doesn't even have to be Ineos or Qatar. We'd be in a better position if the Glazers had left. Forget Ineos, forget Qatar. There was an option on the table. I think it's about time people started saying it. Fair play to Paul Scholes yesterday. He said it in a much more blunter way than many of us. I mean, I'm quite happy with the summer transfer window. Scholes said nothing positive has happened with Ineos. And, you know, that's really interesting because that was on the overlap. Gary Neville's channel. So is Gary using Paul as a way to get what he thinks out there because he can't say it because he's got money in the game with Ineos? I mean, look, Gary Neville, if this was the Conservative Party, you know, cutting money to charities, sacking people, selling young players, which is, he knows is what Man United's all about, he would be all over it like milk on cereal. He'd be absolutely going mad. But because he's rumoured to have money in the game with Ineos and the regeneration of Manchester, he never says a bloody thing. These things need calling out. You know, the hypocrisy of people who want to have an opinion but then won't have an opinion when it affects them. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. But you know, I think it's fair to say that we'd be in a much better position if the Glazers had sold the club, because we wouldn't have debt and we wouldn't be doing some of these horrific things that are just embarrassing. I mean, the amount of people who are contacting me who aren't United fans saying you're an embarrassment, and that's not just me, the club. They can't believe what we're doing. Anyway, we can maybe talk about that a little bit later. I want to talk about this what's going on with the transfer window, because that is open. So basically, Marcus Rashford's team at the moment are out in Milan. And the latest from Di Marzio last night was that AC Milan's strategy for Marcus Rashford is not to focus on a loan deal, but to focus on a deal that will give them the ability to sign Marcus Rashford permanently, as they see him as an ideal player for their project. It's interesting. I still will say this. One voice singing in the darkness maybe, but I'm still stunned that Paris Saint-Germain have not come in. If he goes to Milan and we move him off, that's basically what we want to do. But I still look at the player, and I will argue this with anybody. I still think there's a good player there. I just think he absolutely needs to leave Manchester United, the same as Sancho did, the same as Pogba did, the same as Alexis Sanchez did, Di Maria. That doesn't mean they're bad players. Man United just doesn't suit them anymore. And I just can't believe PSG aren't looking at this, because since Neymar and Messi and Mbappe, they don't really have a superstar. And Rashford would give them that. But also, I think he'd be a good player for them. I don't know whether it's stubbornness. I don't know whether it's the Qatar thing, maybe that. But I'm very, very surprised that they haven't looked at it, because I think AC Milan are right. I think in that league, for a club like that, Rashford would work. I mean, we spend a lot of time waxing lyrical about Leao and, Lautaro Martinez at Inter Milan and these brilliant players in Serie A, but I don't actually think if you take them out of that league and you drop them in the Premier League, they are the best players in the league. I think if you take Harvey Barnes and you put him in a Napoli shirt like McTominay, he'd actually be one of the better players in the league. The Italian league is fantastic, but the level is not as high as you think. I think Marcus Rashford in an AC Milan shirt will tear it up. I actually think if you gave Anthony to Lazio, he'd be good. I like Italian football, but I'm also fully eyes open that it's not as good as people think it might be. And I think Rashford in an AC Milan shirt will actually do quite well. But as I say, I'm very surprised that PSG haven't done it. And as Harmon says, look, maybe Luis Enrique wants a certain type of player and Rashford's not it, as is their right. I mean, look, I'm not here to talk about PSG's politics or, the style of player or anything like that. I just think he would be a good signing for them. But look, PSG's loss is going to be someone else's benefit. And look, AC Milan, Marcus Rashford, we're going to have to subsidise his wages. What are your thoughts about this? What are your thoughts on this at the moment? Because I think that the bottom line is we have a manager in Ruben Amorim who has made it very clear that certain players are not part of his project. And if I'm the CEO, Omar Barada, then I have to remove those players. And this is something that we've not done for a very long time. I'll talk about this Melissa Reddy Sky Sports News story in a minute, because Kobbie Mainoo is a topic, so don't worry about it. Stop trying to change the running order of the show. Like, I know you might be new, but you'll get shot down by the experienced people in the live chat. Stop trying to push us to stories that we will talk about in order. It becomes chaotic if you go from halfway through one story into another. We will talk about Mainoo. He was already on the agenda. I understand there is a bit of breaking news around that actually doesn't make sense anyway, because yet again it's from Sky Sports, who don't know their elbow from their arse. But we will talk about it, because why would Kobbie Mainoo have any concerns about PSR or FFP? Kobbie Mainoo is a centre midfielder, he's not a CEO, so it doesn't even make any sense what they're talking about, but we will talk about that in a moment. Let's continue with Rashford. What are your thoughts on this? He goes on loan, we pay some of the wages, and then Milan have an obligation to buy in the summer. It's not ideal, but go back to what I just said. Not about Sky Sports knowing nothing. About how if I'm the CEO and Amorim doesn't want this player, I have to move him on. And in moving him on, I have to ignore Glazonomics and say, we're a football club, we're not a business. I can't move this player on and make you money. And what we've done in the past is managers have said, remove this player. We've gone, no, because we can't make any money on it. And we leave that player with the manager and the manager gets sacked and the team fails. We have to change the way we work. The manager doesn't want this player. We have to move him on, even if we lose money on it. That's what we have to do. So we won't lose money on Rashford anyway. Ultimately, we won't lose money on Rashford. But what I would say is that we've been down this road before with Jadon Sancho. We know the story, and I'll tell you the story. He goes on loan to AC Milan. Every pass he does that's good, every goal he scores, every assist will go viral for the next 6 months from Rashford FC, saying, bring Starboy home. Ignore it. And then in the summer, he'll be gone. And then next season, it'll be a fresh start. And that's basically how we've walked this path with Sancho. You move him on. He won't be completely gone, because anything good he does in another league will be exploded all over the press, because that's how it works. And that's how Player FC works. And then in the summer, they'll be saying, bring him back. And we'll talk about bringing him back, but we'll actually move him on. And we've walked the path with Sancho, so I'm happy to walk the path again. The alternative is we say we're not paying his wages, he's not going on loan, and we continue down this route of Amorim and Rashford being unhappy. Let the media and Player FC shout about Rashford scoring goals for Milan or Dortmund. Let them do it. Because ultimately, we all know what's going to happen. He'll be gone in the summer. This is just a pathway to an exit. I don't think he's going to want to come back. I don't think Amrim's going to want him back. And I think it's a pathway to moving him on. Let's do it. I mean, ideally, I'd sell him for £40 million and I'd remove him in January. But we're not going to find anybody that wants to do that. So we're going to have to find... I mean, I don't know how AC Milan are going to afford his wages anyway, you know, even after this season. So I think if Man United can do a deal in January where there's an obligation to buy, I think that's not a bad thing to do. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's probably not what we wanted in the sense that I think people wanted it to be permanent. But who in January is going to buy Marcus Rashford permanently? Nobody. Nobody's going to do it. And I think ultimately you've just got to look at it and say, does Ruben Amorim want to use Marcus Rashford? No. Is Marcus Rashford happy at Manchester United? No. Does the majority of Man United fans want Rashford part of this setup at the moment? No. Obviously he needs to move on. Put him on loan. A bit of time for people to think. Let his agents do his work and move him on. What I will say is, it is a shame. It is a shame. It's not over yet, but I think it will be. And it is a shame. And I think that what I will say is, amongst all the death threats and all the happiness, and this is a very contentious issue, Manchester United need to study the collapse of Marcus Rashford's career and look in the mirror, as much as Rashford and the people around him, maybe even more so. Man United need to look in the mirror and say, what parts and mistakes did we make in this? Because they made plenty. You had a player at 20 years of age who should have gone on to be a United legend and should have broken Rooney's goal scoring record. And somewhere along the way, Man United and Marcus Rashford's people have contributed to the collapse of a personality and career that I would never have predicted at 20 years of age. So United need to look at this, because I could not see this coming. Didn't see this humble youngster, Manc born and bred, heading down this route. And whatever the truth is, I think it's sad. But we can't turn the ship around now. We can't. The iceberg has been hit. And the Rashford United ship is sinking. And it's time to move on. But United need to reflect, because they have contributed to this. They've protected this player at times when they shouldn't have done. They've made him be about brand when they shouldn't have done. There's two parts to stay in this story. At the moment, Rashford does not have the best image in the football world. A loan deal could rehabilitate it and get a proper move in the summer, says Patrick. Julian says, has to be an obligation to buy, not an option. I'm convinced he won't find his feet in Milan. You need work ethic and mentality, of which he has none. I mean, Julian makes a good point there before we move on. The assumption is that we've walked this path. I mean, look, let me run a poll. This is what we're here for. Would take caps lock off. Would Rashford be a success in Milan? Yes or no? Because I think that's a great point by Julian. I genuinely think he would be a success in Milan, but Julian's right. The Belfast thing a year ago was shocking. The interview a few weeks ago was shocking. His performances this season under a new manager after getting rid of Ten Hag, who he'd clearly fallen out with, have been shocking. Am I still making the same mistake that we all make? Oh, Rashford will be back. What if he goes to Milan and he's still not got his head in the game? So maybe Julian makes a good point. What if he is done? What if mentally he has checked out? So he needs this change. He needs this change. This is not about Manchester United, Marcus Rashford anymore. This is about Rashford, the player, and whether he can be good again. But yeah, I understand, Julian. I think an obligation to buy makes a lot of sense. Look, it just depends on what the Glazers and Ineos are doing. They might get an offer from AC Milan that will give you £30 million in the summer. And they go, and Man United go, no, he's worth way more than 30. He was worth 100 million 3 years ago. Is he ever going to be worth 100 million again? What if he's crap at Milan? You want that 30 million then. So I just think it's pure profit anyway. Move on. Plus, yeah. Nigel Matthews, welcome to the Members Club, and Xavier as well. We already pay all his wages, so why not send him away and pay a bit of that and then get a bit guaranteed fee after the loan, says Blanc. Look, I'm of the same opinion of you, mate. I think that people get really moody about how you send a player on loan and you go, we're not paying his wages. We're paying Casemiro 350k a week and he doesn't play. So you're paying, it's not a new fee, we're paying their wages anyway. And I think you sometimes have to go, well, look, also, we're putting one of our players in a team that's going to play regularly and he's going to play regularly. It's like renting your house out, isn't it? He's putting himself in the shop window. Sky Sports have announced that Kobbie Mainoo has no concerns over the future amid PSER talks. What are the lies coming from, says Ryan G. If they sell Mainoo, they kill the values of the club, says Mark Dennehy. Thank you very much for that. Hi Mark, been following the channel since Van Gaal days. I'm already over the Ineos reign and I want them gone. Feel like we're losing the soul of the club, says Ashley. Well, let's talk about this then. Look, let's see what happens with Rashford. His agent and team are in Milan at the moment. They may be heading to Dortmund as well. I just think let's get this done ASAP. He needs to get playing. We need to get moving on. Hopefully we're going to get something, developing soon, and hopefully we're going to get that here we go soon. I feel like it's, we're moving closer towards it anyway. We need a good player in if we let him go. Mark says, enjoy writing. Well, we'll talk about who's probably coming in a moment. Just remember the iconic photo of Mainoo, Rasmussen, Garnacho sitting on the advertising board. Would be sad to see Mainoo leave, says the two pump. Yeah, and that's not even a year ago that happened. Xavier's just gifted a membership as well. Thank you, mate. You're a legend. But look. Let me just talk about this. This Sky Sports thing about Mainoo. First of all, when have Sky Sports been David Ornstein or Fabrizio Romano? Not for years. Not for years and years and years. So just because Sky Sports have got the TV rights, I read something fantastic yesterday about how people should be cancelling their Sky Sports subscription because they are facilitators to what is quite simply a disgrace around Manchester United at the moment. And it listed the volume of penalties we don't get under Michael Oliver and the volume of penalties he gives against us. And it's, basically, it just breaks down the fact that Sky facilitate bad decisions in the PGMOL because they don't call it out. They don't show replays. So, look, Sky Sports have got Premier League rights. That's what I watch it for. So, I don't think they're very good when it comes to inside information at Manchester United. And I can't remember the last time we saw that. They're saying that Kobbie Mainoo has got no concerns over his Manchester United future. Well, what does that mean? Like, if we go back to what was said last night, this is coming from David Ornstein. This is coming from Chris Wheeler. This is coming from the Manchester Evening News. This is coming from Manchester United. It never came from Kobbie Mainoo. The story is that Manchester United would reluctantly sell Mainoo if somebody put a good offer in. What's that got to do with Kobbie Mainoo? So what have Sky done? Contacted his agent, and his agent has said, we're not concerned about his future. Why would you be concerned about his future? He's got a 2.5-year contract. If they sell him, it's their decision, and he'll make bloody loads out of it. And if they don't sell him, he'll get a new contract. So why would Mainoo have any concerns? I mean, at the end of the day, we've got every right as fans to be furious because it goes against what Manchester United's all about. But if you put yourself in Kobbie Mainoo's shoes, happy days. Everyone's talking about me. They'll be interested in me if they want to sell. If they don't want to sell, I'll get a new contract. He's in a very good position. But I think that the fact still remains that I haven't slept on it and thought anything different. I tell you what, though. I will say this. There are so many people who talk about Man United, whether it's journalists, people on social media, other content creators. And I think what sets this community apart is you can say it once or twice, but I think we consistently say the things that we're not afraid to say. They're not abusive. It's just saying what we think. And to hell with the consequences, because I think a lot of people just go along with the wave and don't want to cause any waves because, oh, that person might not talk to me, or, oh, I might not be liked, or I might not get a load of likes on my video. I think it's a sodding disgrace that Kobbie Mainoo and his wage has been spoken so regularly in the last 24 hours. I have seen him likened to Paul Pogba, Marcus Rashford, be called greedy, let him go. These people facilitate the pile-on onto players who do not deserve it. He's a 19-year-old kid who in a year has gone from nowhere to scoring an FA Cup final, going to the Euros, and being one of our most important players in a shit period. Man United put him up for sale, and he has got people on his back calling him greedy. And why is that? Because certain journalists have decided it's a good idea to leak it out that a 19-year-old wants 200 grand a week, knowing full well that they are a facilitator to the Glazers. Because that story is an angle to make people think negatively of Mainoo. And I can't believe that in this modern world of propaganda, people can't read the story. You know, I always talk about how Rangnick would say one thing, but he meant something else, and Amrim does it as well. People need to open their ears and think things through. So you get a line, but think about why it's there. This is how journalism works. This is how PR works. You put something out there, but the real reason isn't that. You know, footballer seen in a local restaurant smiling with his wife. He's had an affair. You know, it doesn't mean he's had an affair, but there might be a story that's coming out that he's had an affair. But plant the PR picture of him with his wife happy, you know. So that's how it works. So when Man United put a story out that they would sell Kobbie Mainoo, which is what they've basically done. There's no need for that story to go out there. That's gone out there that they would sell Kobbie Mainoo. Whether people like it or not, that's my interpretation. There's no reason 2 days after that result against Liverpool, when you're trying to sell Rashford and Casemiro, to put a story out that you'd sell Mainoo. There's no reason to do that. So they are open to selling him. And as part of that brief, they also put out that we're struggling to come to a deal with his contract because he wants silly money. At what point is Kobbie Mainoo involved in that? He's not. This is not Kobbie Mainoo. This is Man United leaking out that they want to sell him and that he's being greedy about wages. And these journalists who put it out there, as they're typing away smugly, they're actually facilitators for the Glazers. They're not thinking for themselves. They get told Man United would sell Mainoo and that Mainoo wants silly wages. And there they go, typing away, Mainoo wants silly wages. They don't do what a proper journalist does and go, hold on a minute. I'm being told that Man United want to sell Mainoo and that he wants silly wages. At what point do the idiots realise they're being treated like puppets on a fucking string? That's not journalism. Journalism is to figure it out. Why am I getting this brief? Why am I getting it? Why am I being told that United would sell him and that he wants silly wages? Because they want to sell him and they want to damage his reputation by saying it's about him. He hasn't done anything. They're saying they would sell him. They're saying about wages. He's a 19-year-old kid and people are talking about his wages. And I read some of the comments yesterday and I was appalled. On our community, I was appalled by the number of people saying, he's just like Rashford, get rid of him. If he wants that sort of money, get rid of him. He's not worth it. And I was like, mission accomplished. You're still being poisoned by an ownership that's poisoned this club for 20 years. What? Do you not realise that there are first team players playing for Crystal Palace who will be on 70, 80 grand a week? There are players playing for Fulham that will be on 100 grand a week. Kobbie Mainoo's on 20 grand a week. He's an England midfielder and he starts for Man United and people are going, he's not worth 100 grand a week. You don't even do your fucking research. How can people be typing away, get rid of the greedy twat, he's not worth 100k a week? He starts for Man United in England when he's fit. Fulham midfielders are earning 100 grand a week and people are coming out with shit like that. You've got to open your ears, people. You're being played. You're being played. If I want to get rid of a member of staff, Obviously, I've just stated that. I then need to make people agree with me. It's the oldest trick in the book. It's classic PR. If you want something to happen, you need to put stuff out there to make people agree with you so you can get your way. Mind games. Palmer's on 130k a week. No way Mainoo is demanding 200k. I don't think he's demanding 200k. I really don't. And I think, you know what? My main point is, I think it's disgusting, and so many other content creators, United accounts, journalists won't call this out because it's not, it's 2025, it's not 1995, and now people seem to have lost their moral compass. Why is it okay to be speculating about a 19-year-old wanting 200k a week and basically causing a pile-on? What has Kobbie Mainoo done here? Played against Liverpool, did well. 2 days later, club want to sell him and he's greedy. That's the story of the last 24 hours. And yet again, here we are, burning another young Man United player. When will we ever learn? When will we ever learn? It's always the same at this football club. Burning our own players to sell a paper. It's terrible. Anyway, let me go back to another story that I was going to go to second anyway. So this is coming in, I think it's coming in from the Telegraph in relation to Muani. Where was it? That was about that. Manchester United are aware that Marcus Rashford's brother and agent is in Italy talking to AC Milan. A number of clubs are expected to approach United formally over a potential deal. That was not what I wanted to talk about. Here we go. So from the Telegraph, James Ducker, Manchester United are among a host of clubs exploring a potential loan deal for Muani. It is thought any move to bring in a new attacker is not necessarily contingent on one of those players, Rashford and Xerxes, leaving United this month. Well, this is good news. We'll have to wait and see how it develops, but this is good news that, look, I absolutely do not think in a million years that we will be in a situation where Marcus Rashford and Joshua Xerxes are here on February the 1st. But it's still encouraging that Man United are looking at this deal regardless of what happens with those two players, because I think when I look at Manchester United, and the most important thing is performance on the pitch, we can't count on Rashford, and there's a question mark over Xerxes. So bringing in someone else is absolutely imperative, and I hope we can win that race, because I don't know that. I agree with Kinth. I think Muani would be a positive squad option, and I think that's going to be really important for us over the coming weeks and months. I mean, I do worry about the midfield and certainly worry about left back, but we're not going to solve every problem in January, and there's been many Januaries where we haven't solved any problems. I mean, I watched Arsenal last night. I could see it a bloody mile off. They're picking up injuries, they're tired, they're in a good position, but they look like they're going to... I think we've got a very good chance against Arsenal on Sunday. I really do. Watching Arsenal last night, they look tired. They're playing loads of games. I think we've got a really good chance. And I think the January transfer window is not just important to Manchester United. Man City are looking at it. Chelsea did it before. If I was a Fulham or a Forest or a Bournemouth, I'd be looking at it. It can just give you a kick up the backside. And I think Manchester United need to do that. So I'm encouraged that Muani is somebody that we are still looking at. Red Devil Girl, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much. David B says, Mainoo seems to be mature for his age and a model professional. Surely that's the kind of player we want to keep. And I would hold that, David. I would hold that. I'd be very careful about how journalism works around Man United sometimes. A brief comes out and everybody happily puts it out there and they don't scrutinise it. And that's journalism. When you get a brief, look, it worries me because it's such a competitive world now. We've been in and around the press conferences and there are some good journalists in there, but they're all in competition with each other. And the relationship you've got with the club is really important, because you think about certain journalists, if they're not allowed in a press conference, who are they? So when Man United go, this is the story, if they don't take that story and put it out there, will they get a story again? And that's not journalism. That's just being a mouthpiece for the Glazers who own this football club. And I'm not comfortable with what happened last night, because it was nothing to do with Mainoo or Garnacho or anybody else. That was a brief from United saying that anybody's for sale and that Mainoo wanted silly wages. And when you're typing that, if I got told, right, Mainoo wants 200 grand a week, before I went live, I'd be speaking to people I work with and saying, if I say that, you do realise it's a great story, but it's going to negatively impact Kobbie Mainoo with some viewers who will call him greedy. And I don't think any of these journalists care about that. And it makes me laugh, because apparently the negative stand, which it hasn't been for years, is about going after players, this, that, and the other. I think we protect our players more than the media do, because we actually think about what we're saying. On what planet does it make in what planet does it help Kobbie Mainoo's career at Man United to have him associated with wanting 200 grand a week at a time where we're at our lowest points and we're trying to get rid of people on big wages? I mean, I don't know whether these people do it on purpose or they just haven't got the brains. We're literally trying to offload overpaid mercenaries. Casemiro's on 350k a week. Rashford's on 300k a week. Luke Shaw doesn't play and he's on nearly 200 grand a week. You know, Mount doesn't play, he's on 250 grand a week. We've got this big story at the moment about all these players who are on stupid money that we can't get rid of. And then you put a story out that Kobbie Mainoo wants 200 grand a week. I mean, come on. It's like dropping a joint of lamb with a great white shark, isn't it? It's not going to go well. It's going to get torn apart. But people don't think about that. And this is a 19-year-old kid who wakes up this morning and won't be able to avoid the fact that some of his fans think he's a greedy mercenary who should be sold. It's not right. It's not right, and it should be called out. And people don't call it out because ultimately they're fair weather. Oh, here I am with the latest Man United news. Yeah, but are you really about what Man United's all about? Because you should be scratching, you know, instead of logging on to the Mirror and just talking about a headline, you should be using your fucking heads to read that headline and understand what it means underneath, which is why I love Amarim's interviews, because he'll say something and the amount of people who don't realise what he's actually saying. Like what he said last week about how he was talking about the players before the Liverpool game, and he said at the moment, you know, that they're lacking leaders, you know, they're nervous and that's affecting their game. What he's actually saying is, I've got a bunch of players who aren't good enough, who are weak-minded. But it sounds like he's protecting them, but actually he's telling you we haven't got that. Anyway, look, enough said about that. Let's move on. I think that things are moving. Look, as I say, I will absolutely champion what Paul Scholes said yesterday about Ineos. He said they've been a disaster since they came in. They've done nothing good. They're a disgrace, etc., whatever. I don't actually subscribe to that view because I don't subscribe to a life that's red and green. It's too absolute for me. I like creativity and I like everything that's in between. And whilst I think Ineos have done a lot of bad, red, I think there's been a lot of good. And I think the summer transfer window was good. And I actually think we might have a reasonably good January transfer window. But you know what? When you break that down, how much of that is down to Omar Barada? And how much of the bad stuff is down to Sir Jim Radcliffe? Because Omar Barada, I don't think he would be the guy that's going, let's not give money to a charity, let's sack these people, let's hike the ticket prices. He would be involved in it, but would he be driving that? Whereas signing Agate, you'd expect him to be more involved. Ultimately, they've done a lot of bad, but I still think there are elements of good going on there as well. But I just think that what really bothers me about United is the lack of communication, and it's there again. The Glazers just used to hide in America doing bad things, untouchable. And United fans would get really frustrated, but they weren't there. They weren't visibly there. Jose Mourinho said it. when I was in charge of Man United, I was the manager, the coach, the CEO, the owner, everything. The only person who ever spoke was me. There was no leadership from above. It was all hidden away in other places. And then you get sacked. And then people realise you're not the problem. You were just the only one talking. And he was absolutely spot on. It was the same with Solskjaer. It was the same with Ten Hag. And it's the same happening again. We get no communication at all. All we ever hear about is ridiculous things about hiking ticket prices or, yes, we'd sell Mainoo. And you want to have a go at somebody, but there's nobody. Because the only person who's going to talk is Amrim. And they've adopted this make horrible decision strategy, but hide away. And that really pisses me off because communication is something that they should have been all over. But everything they're doing at the moment is just very business orientated. And I don't really get the strategy because they haven't ever been successful in doing this anywhere else. It's almost like, yeah, trust us, it'll work. And I don't necessarily think it will, but I hope it will. But what I will say is, as I said at the start of the video, nobody can convince me that this is better than the Glazers selling the club a year ago and us having new owners that were going to come in and clear the debt and pump money in. That to me is obviously better than a situation where we still haven't even decided what we're going to do about Old Trafford. I mean, we've had a few PR pieces about plans and pictures, but it's still not even been decided. They've been here 18 months in the summer, and there's still nothing, not even a bloody digger has rolled into Old Trafford to start, digging up the ground or anything like that. Ow. So I think slow progress is what we're talking about here, aren't we? And when you look at Man City, when they got their new ownership, it was quick. It was very quick, and it still took them years. So I just don't know what they're trying to do. It seems to me like they're making difficult decisions. Obviously, sometimes you've got to make difficult decisions, but they're taking a long time to do these things. Like, I don't see the correlation between saving 40 grand a year by not giving it to a charity you should be giving it to, and then still paying ridiculous wages to people like Mason Mount and Luke Shaw who are never going to be fit. So the balancing act of what they're doing just seems really slow. And the messages that they put out about, yeah, if we got a really good offer, we would sell. And look, let me just make that very, very clear. The whole brief that came out yesterday that David Ornstein was talking about and everybody else, you can interpret it how you want. I woke up this morning and I still interpret it the same way as I saw it. Why are Man United putting a story out that if a big offer came in, they would sell Kobbie Mainoo? That was the story. We would sell Kobbie Mainoo if we got a good offer. And some people are okay with that. Some people are going, well, big offer comes in for a player, you'd sell him. It's not breaking news. Well, it is. Because we're Manchester United. If Arsenal got a big offer for Saka, they won't accept it. They're in a position where they go, no, we ain't going to do it. And Manchester United wouldn't have done that with Ryan Giggs. We wouldn't have done it. We might have done it at 28, but we wouldn't have done it at 19. So why does Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos think it's a good idea to let Man United fans know that if a big offer came in for a 19-year-old Kobbie Mainoo, we would accept it? Because it would be good for us financially. Hold on a minute. Why do I give a fuck about it being good for you financially? I tell you what would be good for Man United financially, if you'd kept your gob shut, sat down and not got into bed with the Glazers. That would have been good for Man United financially. So don't tell me that as a fan base, we need to get on board with selling a player that we never would have sold in our history because it would be good for us financially. And the only reason it's good for us financially is because you did a deal with the devil and got into bed with the people that destroyed this football club. And the only reason selling Mainoo would be good financially is because the club is screwed and you screwed it over by letting the Glazers off the hook when we could have got rid of them. So I don't buy into this on any level. One, this shouldn't be happening. We wouldn't be doing this with George Best in the 60s. We wouldn't have done it with Brian Robson in the 80s, and we wouldn't have done it with Ryan Giggs in the 90s. We wouldn't have done it with Rooney in the noughties. So why are we doing it with Kobbie Mainoo now? because the club's in debt to its fucking eyeballs and you desperately would take any money you can get. Oh, great. That makes me feel really confident that we're moving in the right direction, that we've gone from the last 50 years where we would never do this to 2025 where we actually would sell what we're all about to make a little bit of money to help us with the debt that would have been gone if you hadn't done a deal with the Glazers. And that's the message, isn't it? And nobody can tell me any different. Man United are happy for a story to go out that we would sell a player we should never be selling for profit to help us out in a financial situation that's inflicted on us by the fact that Ineos helped the Glazers out 12 months ago. And yeah, I saw people in the comments going, we're in a difficult position, Mark. You said we need to be ruthless and this brings money into the club. We've got Poundland accountants in the chat telling us that this is a good idea. And yet, if you're worried about finances, you should be protesting outside Old Trafford saying, why didn't the Glazers sell to Qatar? And why did Ineos help them out? Because we wouldn't be doing this, having this conversation now. We'd still be giving money to charities. We wouldn't be doing ticket price increases, and we wouldn't be talking about selling Kobbie Mainoo. We missed the chance 12 months ago, and some people out there should have a very guilty conscience because they got on the payroll and helped them out. Is there ever good news anymore? Club's depressing, says Sean Atwood. I think owners of a football club should always be held accountable. And it doesn't matter whether it's Newcastle, Arsenal, Liverpool or Manchester United. And I think what's happened over the last 12 months is that some people have gone so balls deep on this Ineos deal that they've become corrupted by it and can't see the wood for the trees. There are people that were very vocal when the Glazers are in charge who don't say anything anymore. And yet things have arguably, like Paul Scholes said, got worse. And I think some of those people are in the media. I think some of them are ex-players and some of them are amongst us. They're either not educated, intelligent enough, or they don't want to say it. It's not a good situation at the moment for Manchester United, and we are still heavily in debt. We are still having to build a new stadium, and we are still in the bottom half of the league. Things are not good. And it's difficult to see how they're going to get better. I think, I was thinking about this last night. They need Ruben Amorim to be Sir Alex Ferguson. And if they don't pull that miracle off, where are we going to go? They need a magician. They need a guy that can turn water into wine or water into Ribena if you don't drink alcohol. They need a miracle. Because if we don't get that manager that can do the impossible, I don't see a pathway with the board as to how we're going to do it. I mean, look, come on. Do you want some reminders? They brought a director of football in. He was on gardening leave, one of the best director of footballs in the world, apparently. He was on gardening leave for 6 months. They sacked him after 4. I mean, Ineos did this. So there's plenty of stuff that I'd be worried about. But look, as I said, as in life, not everything is swipe left or swipe right. As I said, I'm reasonably happy with the summer I am happy with the summer transfer window. And in relation to the January transfer window, things are happening. So I never thought we'd be in a position where we actually would start looking to move Casemiro on or Marcus Rashford on. So it's not all bad, but some of it's really hard to... look, again, I'm repeating myself, but I do not understand why people at Manchester United thought it was a good idea 2 days after a good performance to put it out there that we'd be willing to sell anybody. I mean, somebody at Man United obviously thought this is a really good idea. Get David Ornstein on the phone. The fans will love this. Yeah, we'd sell anybody for the right price. Oh, I'll tell you what, if you thought the reaction to that Liverpool performance was good, Sir Jim, watch this. They're going to love it. They don't like it. Why did this not go through the focus group? Yeah, and that's what I mean. They can't read the room. they don't know how to read the room, because that was never going to go down well. Imagine last night when that comes out, if we'd all have gone, oh, this is great news. Literally any players for sale if we get a big enough offer. That's the way to build a team. Double D says, the fact is, Ineos are business people, not football people. And I think this is absolutely, I mean, Double D normally comes in with a bit of clarity. I think you're absolutely spot on. We're getting frustrated at a lie, aren't we? We were all told about this local lifelong Man United fan. I bet if you sat Sir Jim Radcliffe down and spoke to him about Amorim's system, he'd get bored quickly. He doesn't strike me as a football guy. I think he likes football, but he doesn't strike me as what we were being sold. He's a Man United fan. He's not a bloody Chelsea fan. I never thought that was fair. But I know Man United fans. I know Aston Villa fans. You sit down and talk to them, and I'd rather talk to the door. Because they say they like football, but they don't like it on the level that most people do. And I agree with Double D. I think Sir Jim Radcliffe is a ridiculously intelligent business person who, started with nothing and is a billionaire. To do that, how much time do you think you've actually got to be watching the United stand or reading fanzines or analysing games? It's impossible. It's impossible to do what he's done with his life and also consume football like most of us do. Double D says, fact is, Ineos are business people, not football people, end of story. And the Glazers, who we've all forgot about, are pulling the strings. Well, that might be something more sinister. Are Ineos a front for the Glazers? I don't know. I don't know about that. But they are the ones that got the Glazers to stay, Shah. They are. They are. But I think ultimately, Sir David Brailsford, Sir Jim Radcliffe, I don't think they know what they're on about when it comes to football. I think they're genuinely lacking common sense when it comes to football. And I think they are certainly not in tune with what Man United's all about. And if they were, they wouldn't have made the decisions they've made over the last 12 months. And they either improve on that or it's going to be a very bumpy ride. Morning, I'd love to know if anyone knows what % of stories worldwide each season relate to Manchester United. It's draining, says Smoggy. Yeah, I think sometimes it feels like 90. I agree owners should be held responsible, but the UK media continue to do or say nothing as it's their star boy, Jim, says Andre. Andre, how many times have I said this? Ineos have been in charge for over a year and not one journalist from The Athletic, from The Telegraph, from the Manchester Evening News has done a bit of journalism to establish how Man United's being run and what role the Glazers have at the moment. We've not had anything about Joel Glazer for months. And what's his involvement in sacking Ten Hag and recruiting Amorim, the transfer budget, sacking people, cutting money from the charities, building the new stadium? How much of a say does he have? Is it the final say? We don't get any of this because ultimately, I think most journalists are basically just mouthpieces for Man United these days. They get told something, they don't question it, and they put it out. And that's why I'm pissed off about that Mainoo wage thing, because that story in its entirety is a hit piece on Kobbie Mainoo. If you put a story out about Mainoo wanting big wages, you are facilitating the pile-on of Kobbie Mainoo. Where's the balance to that? It's not fair. It's not fair. Thanks everyone for watching. What about Saudi for Casemiro? Keep an eye on that one. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that that's going to move quickly. I think the way it works in Saudi is they have rosters of players, don't they? And I think they're trying to move a couple of players on, like Talisca. Casemiro's not playing anyway. He might play against Arsenal a bit, but it's not like it needs to happen tomorrow. But there are 3 weeks left of this window, so I think we need to keep away on that. Thanks everyone for tuning in this morning. Fantastic show. We're back at 2 o'clock, of course. It's a 7 o'clock show tonight because I'm doing Liverpool Spurs on That's Football. Vinny says, you might be surprised. Let's see where we are in a few years. Mate, I genuinely think you make a great point for once. I think things will... That's why I want to be balanced a little bit. They've done so much wrong. They're so out of touch. I don't believe this lifelong United stuff because there's too many things that are happening that a United fan wouldn't do that understands United. I think Gary Neville needs to be more vocal. You know, he's very vocal about things he wants to be vocal about, but bloody hell, Gary, you know all this stuff is wrong. You know selling someone like Mainoo would be wrong. You know cutting money to charities is wrong. You know increasing ticket prices for the working person is wrong. So why aren't you saying anything? It stands out like a sore thumb that the rumours are that you're taking money from Ineos to do something. Come on. You know, you've got to be vocal. Man United means more to you than pounds, surely. Paul Scholes has done it. More people need to do it. They need to be called out as owners. But they're not going anywhere. And like Vinny said, things could get better. But the start's been bad. And we would have been better off if the Glazers had gone completely. There's nothing wrong with saying those things. I wouldn't say Ineos are definitely going to fail. I'd be worried at the moment. But I thought the summer transfer window was good. I think moving some of these players on that we might be moving on is good. They're open goals, though. I mean, God, it's not like they've bloody reinvented football by buying 3 or 4 good players and getting rid of some of the shit. It's very obvious, open goals, but at least they've scored some of them. Thanks everyone for watching. Let me just have a look at something here. Somebody's just said something that if you're staying late, you might just get something interesting here. Somebody said to me, I said that putting it out there about Kobbie Mainoo's wage is a disgrace. And I read comments last night about how he should, if he wants 100 grand a week, get rid of the mercenary and this, that and the other. And I said at the start of the show, there are players who play for Fulham who are on like 70, 80, 90 grand a week. Kobbie Mainoo starts for England and Man United. He's got every right to be pushing for a wage over 100k when he's on 20 grand a week. And some people in the chat have gone, what players at Fulham are on that? I don't know what year you think you're in. Enjoy the millennium. But this is roughly what Fulham players get paid a week. Bernd Leno, 130k a week. Reece Nelson, 100k a week. Raul Jimenez, 100k a week. Anderson, 100k a week. Iwobi, 90k a week. Diop, 80 grand a week. Adama Traore, 75 grand a week. So Smith Rowe, 70 grand a week. So this is what I mean. People moan about if Mainoo wants 100 grand a week, get rid of him. You're just falling into the propaganda of the media. You're burning another kid for no reason. I mean, Jojo says 100k a week is too much for Mainoo. Mate, he's 19. He's got the potential to be something really special. He starts for England. He starts for Man United. And you're saying he should be on less money than Bernd Leno at Fulham and less money than Raul Jimenez at Fulham. We're Manchester United, mate. We can pay fair wages. We're giving Mason Mount 250 grand a week. You can't just say to somebody, you're going to get a shit wage. He's shit and never plays, but he's going to get double what you've got. You've got to be real, and you've also got to be fair. You're burning a 19-year-old who's done nothing wrong because the media have fed you a story of greed. Wake up and smell the coffee. Thanks, everyone. We're back at 2. Take care. Oh, 68% of you think Rashford would be a success in Milan, by the way. 32% say no. I'm with the 68%. So speak to you in a bit.